Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I join the chairman in welcoming our witnesses this morning. Over the weekend, we all learned about the tragedy on the USS Fitzgerald. Our thoughts are with the USS Fitzgerald crew and the families of the 7 sailors who lost their lives in service to our country. These 7 young men represented diverse backgrounds, but were united in their service to our country. As we honor their lives, we must also move forward to support their fellow sailors and Marines. Over the past weeks, we have held a number of hearings on the future of a number of Navy and Marine Corps programs. Today's witnesses will also tell us about the balancing act our military faces. On one hand, they need to support ongoing operations and sustain readiness. On the other, they need to modernize and keep the technological advantage that is critical to military success. All of this under the cloud of limits imposed by the Budget Control Act. While that law necessarily raised the debt ceiling, it also imposed draconian caps on defense and non-defense programs and included sequestration. Sequestration, or automatic across-the-board cuts, was included as a worst-case scenario to motivate Congress. And the mindless cuts to defense and non-defense programs brought by sequestration were meant to be so bad that Congress would be forced to find an alternative way forward. We all learned a lesson in 2013 when sequester was allowed to take effect. In fact, some in our industrial base are still working through the aftermath of that fiasco. Yet here we are, 6 years later, living under the caps and in fear of sequestration and what it would do. Funding for critical programs, both defense and non-defense, is not an either-or proposition. We cannot enact the priorities and programs discussed today until we lift the caps and eliminate the fear of sequester. I look forward to working with the chairman and other committee members to balance the needs of our military with critical domestic programs. It has been long enough, and the time for leadership is certainly now. With that in mind, a continuing focus of this subcommittee has been to see that we improve our acquisition stewardship and thereby ensure that we are getting good value for every shipbuilding dollar that we spend. The big news this year is the increase in force structure that was recommended by Chief of Naval Operations' most recent force structure assessment. The Navy has not submitted a plan, and the chairman has mentioned this also, for ramping to meet this new 355 ship goal, but we hope to gain some insight into what reasonable steps we could take now to help the Navy achieve this increase. Eventually, we will need to increase attack submarines and major surface combatants to much higher force levels. The Navy was supposed to implement an engineering change proposal for the DDG-51 destroyer program to include the Air and Missile Defense Radar, or AMDR, on one of the ships in the FY-16 shipbuilding program. To date, the Navy has not signed a contract for that upgrade. We need to assess why this has been delayed and whether the Navy and contractors are making sufficient progress on the AMDR program to award a new multi-year procurement program in fiscal year 2018. I know that the Navy conducted what by all accounts was successful testing of the AMDR system at the Pacific Missile Range Facility, or PMRF, located on the island of Kauai. I hope we can hear from Secretary Stiller on this important program as well, and look forward to hearing your testimony this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.